Chapter 1, Industry Roots. The history of most of America's glass industry can be traced in some way to the New England Glass Company, but in a very special way, it is the grandfather of Northwest Ohio glass. The founder of New England Glass, Deming Jarvis, built the American glass industry. Europe had jealously guarded the secrets of high-quality glassmaking, preventing new entry into the industry. The glass-making nations of Europe had enacted laws forbidding the emigration of glass artisans and glass blowers. The famous Venetian glassmakers for centuries were isolated on a guarded island. In addition, the Venetian government imposed the death penalty on those trying to emigrate. Jarvis, in the 1840s, smuggled out a number of glass artisans that broke the code of flint glassmaking. Flint glass was a high-quality cut glass containing 20 to 28% lead, which gave it its weighty feel. Jarvis was able to unlock the European monopoly on the recipes for flint glass. One of those smuggled glass experts, Thomas Layton, would later revolutionize the glass industry with American pressed soda glass. In the 1870s, William Libby, who had worked mainly in sales, took over the struggling New England Glass Company. The company was suffering from soaring fuel costs and competition from pressed glass made by Hobbs Bruckner of West Virginia. In addition, the glass workers were pushing for wage increases equal to those of more successful companies of West Virginia. New England Glass pioneered beautiful colored art glass. The secret to ruby red glass had been lost with the death of Prussian alchemist Johann Kunkel van Lohenstern in 1680. A New England glass blower accidentally rediscovered it in 1882 when a gold ring fell into a bath of glass creating rich ruby red. Libby and his glassmakers went on to manufacture an array of red, pink, and peach colors, going by such names as amberina, agate, and pomona. William Libby's son, Edward, would successfully sell Tiffany's of New York in promoting the new glass products. The success of these colored glass products helped New England Glass maintain a few more years with the high cost of New England fuel.
William Libby was born in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and could trace his first ancestor to the 1620 landing of the Mayflower. In 1855, Libby started as an importing clerk for the New England firm of Jarvis and Comares, a precursor of New England Glass. Libby worked his way through various managerial positions until he took ownership in 1867. He may well deserve the title of Father of American Glass. In 1818, the New England Glass Company took over the assets of the failed Boston Porcelain and Glass Company. The major investor was Deming Jarvis, who wanted to move into the fine-cut glass market. Needing flint sand, potash, abundant fuels, and lead, the only lacked component was lead oxide, known as red lead, for the production of flint glass. Jarvis was a self-educated glassmaker. Jarvis studied European books to develop a practice to manufacture red lead. He succeeded, and New England had a monopoly on red lead for decades. Under Jarvis's leadership, New England Glass built a reputation for the finest flint glass. In 1826, Jarvis gave up control of the company to Boston and Sandwich Glass Company. This type of apothecary jar was a popular lead glass piece of New England glass. These pieces were hand-blown and hand-cut with layered ruby glass. Ruby-colored glass was reintroduced to the world after the recipe was lost for centuries. Edward Libby had joined his father's firm in 1874 at age 19. He showed early successes selling colored cut glass to major outlets. In 1880, he made a partner as the legal name of the firm became William L. Libby and Son, but the company still worked as New England Glass. He took over the company after his father's death in 1882. While Edward Libby worked hard in improving sales at New England Glass, he depended on his young product development manager, Sol Richardson, to improve the struggling company's manufacturing. In the 1880s, Richardson developed a working relationship with Thomas Edison at Menlo Park. Richardson did some of the earliest production work on the electric light bulb. On his first trip to Toledo to discuss moving his glass company there, Edward Libby met Florence Scott. On June 24, 1891, Libby married Florence Scott of Toledo. As a single bachelor, Libby lived at the Madison Hotel, from which he made his daily trip to the post office to pick up incoming receipts. The Scotts were a wealthy Lucas County pioneer family. The New England Glass Towering Chimney was a Boston-Cambridge landmark in 1880. It had also built a reputation for cut crystal glass, taking many awards at the 1876 Philadelphia Centennial Exposition. All the great cut glass makers of the world had adopted the Venetian glass-making method. Note the benches or chairs, which remained part of the glassmaker's setup into the 20th century. Also note the high chimneys, which were needed for wood furnaces to provide the necessary updraft. Note the use of wooden molds in bottle and container glass blowing. Edward Libby worked his way up through his father's company, but it was in sales that he excelled. His sales effort of Libby's ruby red glass, known as Amberina, in 1883 turned the struggling company around. He also established a key customer in Tiffany's of New York for Amberina. Libby Company rediscovered the ancient technique of adding gold to glass to obtain rich blends of red. The process was patented in 1883 and fiercely protected by Libby. Sales had peaked by 1888 and competitors had discovered the process. This was the most difficult of the glassmaker's handicrafts. A copper wheel was pressed against the glass piece as a leather tip fed a mix of linseed oil and emery powder. The glass cutter had a wide variety of sizes of copper wheels available, but great judgment was needed in their selection. One design might take as many as 50 different sizes. Libby had the best copper wheel craftsmen in the world. Abrasive cutting used sandstone and, in the 1900s, carborundum to make deep V cuts in a pattern. Libby Glass would dominate the cut glass market for many years with its renowned glass cutters. Libby Glass consistently took awards at world fairs. The cut glass market of lead crystal had an upscale market such as candelabras. Pressed glass represented a much cheaper option for the average household. It was not made of heavy lead crystal but a lime soda glass. Ex-New England glassmaker William Layton, who was brought to the West Virginia industry, developed pressed glass. The Brazilian pattern shown here was one of the most popular of 1899 by Northwest Ohio's Fostoria Glass. The Venetian glass-making tools of the 12th century hardly changed in 800 years until the arrival of Mike Owens. While Toledo was a lake port, it was shallow and restricted industrial development until the glass industry took advantage of the port and the railroad network. A committee of local businessmen had been formed early in the 1880s to bring new industries to Toledo. The layout of the typical 19th century glassworks was not much different from those of Venice in the 16th century. One large wood or coal-fired furnace heated 4 to 12 pots of glass. The small side furnace was an annealing furnace to remove work stress in the finished glass pieces. Approximately 25 to 40% of glasshouse labor was children. Boys were used to handle, move, clean, and anneal glass pieces. They were also employed to maintain furnaces and package final product. Boys from 8 to 12 years of age were commonly employed regardless of state laws.